The economic uncertainty is having an impact on Canada's housing market. Canadian home sales fell in March as many potential home buyers opted to stay on the sidelines. New numbers from the Canadian Real Estate Association show sales activity sank nearly 5% month over month in March. On an annual basis, sales were down more than 9%. Joining me now is Shaun Cathcart, senior economist with the Canadian Real Estate Association. Shaun, thanks very much for joining us.
How you doing, Roger?
I'm good. The market maybe is a little more worrisome. Any indicators for the drop-off?
Well, we can track daily data, and so I can tell you that this all started basically in the fourth week of January. The market was actually looking pretty good for this year. We were forecasting a rebound year with the caution that, hey, if this tariff bluster goes ahead, then that's really this whole board is going to be flipped over, and that's exactly what's happened. And you could see it started, sales that were climbing through into the spring, which should have climbed all the way until May, just went flat as a pancake in that fourth week of January, and it hasn't gotten any better.
And is there any indicators that might change anytime soon? Because how long can people sit on the sidelines if they are looking for a house?
Well, it's not everyone sitting on the sidelines. There's still a market going on out there. It's just at a much lower level than we would have thought. I have to wonder to what extent it's in some of those places that are more tariff sensitive, export, that export energy, the auto sector, aluminum, steel, forestry, that sort of thing. I guess it's only gotten worse because this new escalation between the U.S. and China that's basically become an embargo. What's that going to do to the global economy?
And you mentioned that some regions, are there any clear indicators on which regions might be holding back, or is it kind of across the board for now?
Right. Well, Canada numbers tend to be overwhelmed by Ontario and BC, and they were cool to begin with. But I think what you're really seeing is the same sort of behavior everywhere to some extent, where what you're getting is a quieter market, where both buyers and sellers go back to the sidelines, as they did for the last 3 years when rates were high. I think the real risk here is if the economic fallout from these tariffs, it becomes more than uncertainty and really people start to lose their jobs, then you're going to have a market like we haven't seen since the 80s or 90s, where there are no buyers, but people have to sell their homes.
And going back, you mentioned about the war between the U.S. and China. What kind of an impact would that have here?
Oh, boy. Well, I think that's going to have an impact on everyone. Because it's going to have an impact on the global economy generally. And it's hard for me to say, we've never seen anything like this, or I certainly haven't. And so I continue to hope that cooler heads will prevail at some point here.
All right, fingers crossed for that one indeed. Shaun, thanks very much for your time.
Anytime.
Shaun Cathcart is a senior economist with the Canadian Real Estate Association.